Up first this evening, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke tabled the first supplementary estimates in the House of Representatives today. Dr. Clarke pointed to issues like the rise in inflation, the need for more money for public sector wages and social programs as among the factors for the revised budget. Our reporter Javon Keys is here to give a breakdown. Javon.
Thanks, Janella. Now, since Parliament approved the $912 billion budget earlier this year, a lot has changed. The Ukraine-Russia crisis particularly has gravely impacted economies worldwide. So, the government has been forced to add an additional $60 billion for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
As far as interest is concerned, on a net basis, $6 billion more than budgeted, which you will agree that in a debt stock of $2 trillion, right? That's a debt stock of Jamaica. That's how much Jamaica owes, $2 trillion. And on a debt stock of $2 trillion, a $6 billion increase in interest expenditure is very benign compared to what's happening in other countries. So $1 billion capital, $6 billion net on interest. We have $21 billion on compensation of employees. And I was asked a number of questions on that a while ago. And then the remainder would be on programmed expenditure.
Now let's look at that in a little bit more detail. The new sum for the recurrent expenditure, that's money to ministries, departments and agencies, that's $592 billion, and that's up from $539 billion. Now the lion's share of the budget will go to public sector compensation. Dr. Clarke says some key ministries are also getting more money, but that public sector compensation there will be about $21 billion.
The supplementary budget table also contemplates an increase of $21.1 billion in compensation of employees. This arises primarily from the discussions with public sector unions and staff associations in respect of the compensation restructure program for implementation during this fiscal year. Also contributing to this increase, Madam Speaker, is a $2.2 billion amount requested by the Ministry of Health and Wellness to facilitate the payment of salary-related allowances.
Now, Dr. Clarke says some key ministries are also getting more money.
Wellness estimates reflect a net increase of $3.6 billion to support the payment of arrears for goods and services in the regional health authorities and the procurement of drugs and medical supplies. $1.1 billion to JUTC towards the company's fuel costs and other operating expenditure. Ministry of National Security, $6 billion, of which $1.5 billion for JDF, $3.3 billion for the police department, and $862 million for the Department of Correctional Services. The Ministry of Education, Madam Speaker, an allocation of $2.2 billion, including $530 million to supply laptops, computers to teachers under the heads of agreement with the JTA. $270 million towards the expansion of broadband in schools is reflected in the Ministry of Science, Energy, Technology budget.